We're back to be able to learn the 5 ways to generate capital through multifamily. Now, this isn't your general multifamily syndication model. This is real estate development. And so Cody invited me back to do video number 2 to explain to you guys exactly how the real estate development in multifamily actually works. If you haven't already, and you guys are wondering what all this is on the board right here, this was video number 1. And if you haven't already watched video number 1, we're going to recommend it at the end of this video. You'll want to click and watch it, pound hashtag repeat, give us a thumbs up, and smash that like button. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to talk to you guys today and follow up on what we started in video number 1, underwriting how to develop multifamily real estate into a $78 million, that's right, $78 million apartment complex. Now, I know most people are sitting back right now, they're wondering, okay, how can an average person like me go into a $78 million apartment complex? Well, watch video number 1. We'll explain to you how this all transpired. And then this is higher level stuff, so don't let your mind explode. We'll stair step this and scale this back as we roll through this. But for video number 2, I'm going to explain to you guys how we get from the land to the build. And so one of the things that Cody had asked me, he said, Jerome, okay, so we're talking about the loan. We're doing an 80% loan to cost to build out this multifamily apartment complex. And one of the big questions was how we got the money for the land, how we exited out investors, and now we're building an apartment complex. And so when we go into this, we already have now the loan set up through an institution. So we're dealing with one of the big guys. We're dealing with the Meridian Group or Goldman Sachs or US Bank or one of the big banks out there that loves the asset class of multifamily. What bank doesn't love the multifamily asset class right now, especially when affordable housing is one of the #1 most sought after areas of investment right now that's on the forefront of America because there's not enough housing out there. We're millions and millions of rooftops short. So when we go into these, one of the questions that Cody ended with is he said, hey, Jerome, he goes, so what do we build? Like, do we put swimming pools in this thing? Do we put in dog parks? Do we put a bunch of amenities, giant clubhouses? And so I want to take a step back to when we're going into the entitlements and we're trying to buy the land. One of the things that we're looking for is we're looking for a model that fits affordable housing, okay? We're not doing low income, we're just doing affordable housing. Okay, now there's nothing wrong with low income housing. It's just that most of the land that we find doesn't fit the demographics typically that the city likes to put in low income housing or Section 8 housing. Most of it is in nice median neighborhoods, and so the neighborhood support comes in when we do affordable housing. And hence, in a lot of cities, we still benefit from a lot of the tax rebates and other tax incentives that sometimes the cities have. Now, not in all cities, not in all municipalities, but there's a lot of times that they give tax incentives to builders and developers for going in and building an affordable housing model. Now, what does that consist of? Now, depending on what the city wants, and as I talked about in video number 1, we want to find out what the goal of the city is. And if the city sits back and go, hey, we don't want garden style apartments, we want urban style. And there's an architectural difference between urban and garden style apartments. And so the reason I talk about this is because most cities now that are growing progressively, they want the garden style apartments out and they want that urban feel. What is urban? The urban apartment complex. So if we have, this is our apartment complex right here, okay? So this is our land. This right here is our piece of land that we're building out an apartment complex. And this is our inlet. So what they want is they want this to be built where this comes in and the apartment complex is built in an urban style. Cars have to park on the sides. And then there's a courtyard here. And then these are your apartments. Okay, so you got all your apartments in here. And this is pushed out to the property lines, parking comes in, or you have parking spaces and parking stalls in here as well. Okay, now, that's just the architecture that they like to see. One thing that we do is we try to focus on our construction and build costs. One of the number 1 things is trying to stay within a build cost that makes sense so we can come in and we can build a $78 million gross asset for $40 million, give or take, okay? This was just a theoretical example we used for video number 1. Now, when we do this, and this is actually a real project that we're doing right now here in the city of Phoenix currently, and so these are real numbers. We're speaking to them with you guys in theory right now to kind of put it in perspective. But what we do is we come in and we say, okay, the city wants to see urban development. We have our architects put this together. We want to do 3 stories, okay, ideally. If we have enough land to do 3 stories, the reason it's ideal is because once we go over 3 stories, we have to do elevators. Anything under 3 stories, we don't have to do any elevators, so we don't have to do any elevator shafts, meaning there's no structural steel, there's no block or CMU, meaning single masonry blocks, the block that the shafts sit in, and so that cuts down on our cost. Now, if we don't have the ability to do 3 stories to maximize our density, and the reason we want to maximize our density is because every single door that we put on there brings us back a certain dollar amount in revenue and returns. So it's better to maximize our density than it is to go in and compromise an entire level off of the apartment complex. So one of the big things is we'll go in, we'll try to fit in the density that we need on that property at 3 stories. But if not, we'll maximize at 4 stories. And here's why. 4 stories, nationwide, we can still do a sprinkler system that's set up for residential use. It's called an R13 system. For the commercial use, once you go over 4 stories, you have to do a full 13 system, all rigid pipe. You guys have seen them in every commercial building across the United States. And so that it doubles the price of our fire sprinklers. Not only that, we have to do elevators on anything over 3 stories, and for sure on anything over 4 stories. So we want to stay 4 stories at a maximum, but try to maximize it at 3 stories if possible. But if it makes more sense financially, and let's say, for example, it costs us $1 million to put elevators in there, but our return on that $1 million is going to be $5 million in value, then we'll put the elevators in because we have a $4 million gross value over the cost to put the elevators in those units. So I'll always go in and say, okay, well, if I can add $4 million to this, and it was only going to be worth $74 million, but if I just add another level, and it's going to be worth another $5 million gross, $4 million net, and it's only going to cost me $1 million to put the elevators in, I'm putting the elevators in, right? I mean, what would you go through to make an additional $4 million for yourself to put into your pockets? So we'll put the elevators in. But we're trying to minimize build costs. Now, we don't want to use structural steel. Once we go in and we start utilizing structural steel, the dynamics changes. So we try to do this all single wood construction and all stick construction. And so when we go in here and we build this out with wood, it's substantially less than going in and doing it with steel. Even with the inflated lumber prices that we've seen over the last few years, it's still less expensive to do than it is to utilize steel. Now, amenities. One of the big things with amenities is they cost to manage the property later. And so to keep affordable housing intact, most people don't care about the swimming pool. Think about it this way, okay? It's a great selling point to lease, but the use of it is more of a maintenance nightmare and an expense than it is an asset to have in your apartment complexes. You can go to the most beautiful, the highest amenitized apartment complexes all over the United States. And if you go out there during the week, how many people in a complex that there's 300 tenants do you see sitting at the pool during the week? 1, 2, maybe none. On the weekends, maybe 5, 6, 7 out of hundreds of people. So the reality is the swimming pools don't really get used. You go into a gym at a hotel or an apartment complex throughout the entire week or early in the morning, how many tenants are in that gym in the morning? Maybe 2, maybe 3. Think about it when you travel and you go to a hotel. You might have 500 doors in a Hilton, but you'll have 2 people in the gym in the morning. And the same thing happens in your apartment complex. So we take out the gyms, and if we do a gym, it's very small. We do a small sales office. We do a very small we don't do a swimming pool at all. We strip out the swimming pool. We build a Class A looking product that looks like similar to any Class A product that you see out there that looks beautiful. That mid-century modern is trending right now. And we'll do a nice 3 or 4 story building. And we'll come in with low amenities. We'll put walking trails. We'll put a small amount of grass or artificial turf for a dog park because people love their pets. We'll put in some benches, some sitting areas, and that's the extent of our amenities. And so since our property already has washers and dryers in them because people like that, we don't even do a laundry room in there. We do a really small sales office, and it really cuts down on our budgets for build costs. Now, clubhouses. Typically, they don't get used very much. Same thing. You might get 1 or 2 people in there using them. So we don't typically do a clubhouse on our apartment complex. If we do a common area, it's very small. Typically, we don't do them at all. So we keep everything very modest. But one thing that we do put into our apartment complex is we invest in a little bit of storage, because people love stuff. And us as Americans, we love stuff. So one of the amenities that we will invest in is small storage space and small storage areas to build out as part of our apartment complex, because there is a benefit to leasing when you have storage area for your tenants. But the rest of the amenities, we strip them and we keep rents low. So if somebody is going in renting a 1-bedroom in a brand new Class A apartment complex for someplace in the neighborhood of $1,900 a month, we can go in with no amenities and rent that exact same product for about $1,400 to $1,500 a month. Okay? Now, $400 might not seem like a lot to you guys watching the video, but to the average American population, $400 a month is a car payment. Okay, $400 a month is fuel. $400 a month is groceries. $400 a month is the difference between a lot of quality of life for 75% of the U.S. population. So we go in, we cut out this, and we focus on affordable housing. Okay, so now I know one of the questions Cody would be asking right now is he say, okay, Jerome, so we know what we're going to build. How do we build it? How do we go in? What do we do? And how do we build it? How do we find contractors? And how do we go in and find somebody that can actually put this up for us in an affordable fashion? So one of the first sources that I go to is back to my multifamily brokers. We talked about them in video number 1, the CBRE guys, the Colas guys, all the big Marcus and Milchap, all the big brokers. We go back to them and we say, look, when you guys sell an apartment complex, and it's a full 300-unit apartment complex that's value add, meaning it needs to add value to it. You're going to do floors. You're going to remodel the units. And who do you guys utilize? Who do you send your buyers to? And so the multifamily guys, guess what they do? They send us those. Now, there's property management companies, and there's property management companies that specialize in multifamily leasing. So if you go to companies like CalCap or some of the other big companies out there that do multifamily leasing, and you call them up and say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Leasing Company, my name is Jerome Maldonado. I'm going to be building this apartment complex, and I want to know who you guys utilize to do your large apartment builds or value add projects to. And you find all those contractors. Okay, then you grab your smartphone, not your dumb phone, and you pick up your smartphone and you click it on Google and you say, Google, I need all the multifamily general contractors in the city of Arizona, in the city of Phoenix, in the city of Dallas, in the city of Salt Lake City, whatever it is. And you just Google it, and then a bunch of general contractors in those areas pop up. And then you have what's called an interview day or 2. And you call up all those brokers. You tell them what your goal is. You say, "Hey, can I talk to one of your bidders on a project? We have I want to make sure I'm talking to the right person. We have this happens to be a 201 unit apartment complex that we're doing. But let's say I have a 100 unit apartment complex that we're doing. It's new construction, vertical construction. Is this the type of asset class that you deal with? Do you specialize in this in building these type of assets? Do you have experience in it? Have you ever built this before?" And the same thing goes when you talk to the guys that are referred to you from all the big brokerage companies out there. You call those guys up and say, "Hey, I just had a referral from so-and-so down in Marcus and Milchap, and they said you're the go-to on large value-add renovations, and they said you have the manpower to help me out building a 100, 200 unit apartment complex." Now, I just want to make sure that I am talking to the right company and that you guys, that does fit your business model. And if it does, I'd like to meet you on site. Okay, that's your phone script right there. And say, I'd like to meet you guys on site. And then you give them a few times. You say, I'm in town for the next 2 days, or I'm in town next week for these 2 days. Give them a little bit of notice respectfully, and you meet them all on site. And then you paint a vision for them. Okay, you unroll your set of plans, because by the time you're looking for general contractors, you've already have your preliminary plans together. You're saying, hey, I got a 200 unit apartment complex. You unroll it and you say, this is what it's going to look like. You know, here's our preliminary prints. We're not ready. We're going to be ready in about 6 months from now. We're still working through permitting and architecture and engineering. And but we want to get a contractor on board since now, because we need to start talking about financing. And one of the big components is the bank wants to know who's building it for you. Okay, because you're going to underwrite the deal. You're going to go in, you're going to line item all the expenses from the from the soft cost for the architecture, engineering, and all of that stuff to the land itself. So we're going to do soft cost, land. You're going to go in and say, okay, I need the foundation, the plumbing, electrical, yada, yada, yada. All of them all the way down the road. You're going to go through the whole thing. Cabinets, flooring, roofing, drywall, painters, everything. And you're going to go in and you're going to expense all of this. Now, for those of you guys that don't know the first thing about how to expense a project like this, that's why you get your general contractor. Typically, I go in, I do this, then I have my general contractor do the exact same thing. I give him my list, but I white everything out on my list, and I say, give me your prices on all this stuff to build this out. And then he goes out, he puts the project out to bid, and then they come back. Now, I haven't even selected a general contractor yet. I'm just getting prices. Now, how bad are they interested in this project that's going to be a $40 million build and valued at $78 million? If they're going to land up walking in here making a few $1,000,000 on themselves, building it out for you, they'll walk out of there with a $5 million profit at least, and it's going to take them every bit of about 16 to 18 months to build. So you come in, $40 million, and they're going to go to work for you. You know, for the potential revenue return that they're going to make, they're going to go to work for you. They're going to come back, they're going to have their full spreadsheet of all their expenses. When you finally find your contractor and you vet them out, you interview them, you're going to find some that once they get on site, they see your plans, they're going to say, yeah, you know what, this might be a little bit more than we want to buy it off. There also might be some that sit back and you don't like their personality. They're just a little quirky. You don't really meet up with your business model and what you're looking for. You got to be very transparent. So you X a few of them out. Maybe you show up with about 7 or 8 contractors, and out of the 7 or 8, maybe you only find that 3 or 4 of them are going to fit your business model. And out of the 3 or 4, you really only like 2 of them. So right there, you X'd out all of them but 2. Now you have those 2 go to bat for you. And I usually try to say get 3, especially on a project this big. Get 3. And so you get 3 contractors, they go to bat. Now you're comparing apples to apples between all of the trades, all of their expenses, and all of their budgetary numbers, okay? Now, once we get our budgetary numbers together to come up to something similar to this is our goal, then we go in and we take all of this and we take it to the bank, okay? Now, the bank is already doing their homework and they're getting an appraisal, okay? So they're getting appraisals, and the appraiser gets their information from you. You give them all of this, fully entitled, all the architecture, all the engineering, everything, because this is now going in for permits so that you can go in and get your building permits to build this. Now, at the same time that you're doing your building permits, Mr. Appraiser is also looking at it from this end. The general contractor, you already selected one of 2, okay? They're both vetted for the deal. Now it just really comes down to cost. And now you sit back and go, okay, I got all my prices put together, and you want to make sure that the appraisal comes out to this expense cost and exceeds it and comes out to be something like this, where the amount to build comes out closer to something like this. Now, this is our wholesale build rate, right? So we're going to give the bank, because you guys saw the numbers up here before, so I don't want to confuse you. Let me take 2 steps back, and before I just assume that you guys know what I'm talking about, let me go 2 steps back. Now, when we go in for the loan from the bank, we're going to go in with about a 70 to 80% loan to cost. LTC, okay? Not loan to value. This is loan to cost. You're seeing it right. It's not LTV, it's LTC, loan to cost. The cost to build. The cost to build, okay? This cost right here. Now, when we do this, we're also going to add a 15% contingency cost, and we're going to value this on the retail cost to build that product. So if it's valued at $78 million, let's say that we're going to go in here and we value that construction at $60 million. Okay? Now we're going to go in and take 80% of that. That's what our loan amount's going to be. Okay? And we're going to come in, we're going to afford our land in that cost, that $2.6 million that we paid for our land. We're going to exit out our investors. Our appraiser is going to come in, make sure that we're not full of baloney, that we know what we're doing, that our general contractor knows what they're doing. We know that the costs kind of are all aligning now. So this is the point where everything has to align, right? And it has to balance out. Now, when you're doing a project this big, there might be a variance of $1 million, even $2 million, even $3 million. But when you're talking about a $60 million build and it's within a 10% margin of each other, you're in the ballpark. okay? We really want to have about a 5% variable in there when it's all said and done. But if you're within a 10% threshold, between finding a balance between your appraiser, your values, and the general contractor's values, all three of those should be within a 5% margin of each other when it's all said and done for us to feel really comfortable. But no more than a 10% variance when you're first underwriting it. And if there is, then you go back to the appraiser and say, hey, Mr. Appraiser, this is the way we see it. Where is the variable? Then we go back to our contractor and say, hey, this is the way the appraiser sees it. Where is the variable? Then I go back and I check my numbers and I go, okay, where's my variable? And then we get those to align a little bit closer and we start finding stuff. We start finding that we forgot to add $1 million for the improvement of the street up here where we have to do turn-ins, okay? We forgot to add $400,000 to cut into the road to be able to connect to our water lines, our sewer lines for our fire sprinklers and our sewer, okay? Just whatever whatever those numbers are that we forgot. And then we come in within a 5% margin of each other. We take it back to the bank. That's our variable. Now the bank comes in. I'm going to do this for the glare. The bank comes in and they say, we're going to check all the boxes, right? We got permits from the city, check the box. We got cost and for expenses from everybody, general contractors, developer, and appraiser, check the box. We come in here and we say, okay, we're going to vet out experience. We got an experienced developer, we got an experienced general contractor, we're going to check the box, okay? If all the boxes check, we close on everything on the construction loan and we go to work. Ladies and gentlemen, now your liability just opened up, okay? Your liability just opened up and it's time for you to go to work. It's time for you to come in, stabilize your go to work and build your asset out so you can stabilize it. Now, the second we do all this, there's one company that we bring on, and that's the property management company, and here's why. When I bring in the property management company, I come in and I onboard the property management company, and most of them have a monthly minimum. Typically, it's about $2,500, give or take, every single month for a property management company to come in and manage your asset, okay? What are they managing right now? Because there's no asset there. It's a piece of dirt. So people are sitting back going, okay, why would you pay somebody $2,500 to manage an asset that is non-existent? And here's the answer to that. We onboard a large commercial property management company to come in and manage this 100 unit or 200 unit apartment complex prior to even building it, because they do a ton of stuff for us. One, they're going to start building out marketing material. That's one thing, to start marketing it before we're done and complete with the build. The second thing they're going to do is they have accountants. They have accountants that work in-house. They have property managers. They'll handle all of our problems for us. So if we have security over here, we'll set up some cameras. Guess who sees the camera footage? And if there's ever a break-in, guess who deals with it? The property management company. So what happens, guys, is we're going to come in. We have a GC. Okay, that's our general contractor. Okay, we have a property management company. And then we have our bank. Okay? And then there's you down here. Okay, this is you. Oh, and if you're a girl, this is you. Okay? If you're not a girl, this is you. Okay? So this is you. And what's going to happen is the GC is going to invoice your company first, okay? You're going to go in, you're going to audit the invoices to make sure that the invoices are correct, first and foremost, and that the work that they're invoicing for is actually legitimate, okay? Once you review the invoices and you approve them, then you send the invoices to the bank, and the bank goes out and then they do an inspection on the property, okay? And if everything lines up with your invoices and what's done on the property, then the bank will cut a check to the property management company, okay? So the bank will cut a check and give the money to our LLC through a custodial account. It goes to the property management company. Then we send these invoices up to the property management company and we approve them. So we send them first to the bank, we send them to the property management company, the bank approves them, the property management company gets a thumbs up, the property management company now pays the GC, okay? And so they track all that. If you have investors in here, they become your accountant. They become all of your administrative stuff goes to your property management company. You can't find an employee that's going to work and do this for you for $30,000 a year. Hence, we hire a property management company since they have the system set in place. That $2,500 minimum fee that they charge every month goes to a really well invested place and source, and that's the property management company. They become our accounting service, our property management service. They become everything for us during the build. And now when we go back and we ask for an audit, the bank does, we just go back and say, hey, property management company, we talk to them on the telephone. That's a telephone, right? We talk in here. And when we talk to them, we tell them, yep, we'll talk to the property management company, and the property management company goes in and works on our behalf, and they work directly with the bank with us, okay? If the bank needs information for auditing purposes, we get it straight from the property management company. We call them up, we say, hey, the bank needs X, Y, and Z paperwork, and then they send it over to the bank. Now, some of you guys are sitting back, and this is a lot of dry information, but it's a lot of big money-making information. I promised you guys that I was going to give you guys a little more insight on 5 ways that we make revenue in multifamily real estate, okay? Cody and I kind of unfolded how we generated over almost $2 million just from the entitlements in the land. Now, we're going to go in and we're talking about how we take a $40 million build, we get it approved for up to $60 million in loan value, take 80% of that gives us plenty of money to build out our property and pay for the land without any more money out of pocket. Now, the banks may require you to do what's called an interest reserve, okay? And if they require you to do an interest reserve, they're going to take a percentage of whatever they're lending you as far as money, and they're going to put it in a reserve account to service interest in case you ever default on your loan. So you may have to raise a little bit of capital for that. Now, when you go in and you do this and you stabilize it, you're going to have $78 million worth of value. Now, we don't have time today. This video is getting kind of long, so I want to break this video down for you guys and wrap it up, and we'll do a video number 3 explaining to you guys how you go out and you take advantage of taking it from this to this value, and there's a $38 million spread right there. How do you retain that money tax-free? How do you get that $38 million, or at least part of that $38 million out of this asset tax-free? That and more we're going to cover in video number 3. Now watch, go back, click the repeat button, and pound #repeat if you haven't watched video number 1 yet. This is video number 2. And don't forget to smash that subscribe button and give us a thumbs up. And don't forget to comb your hair. Don't be square, comb your hair. Right? What is it? Yeah.
Take care.
Oh, take care and comb your hair.